20 dangerous old car features that no longer exist. Buckle up for a wild ride through automotive history. Remember when cars were built like tanks, but safety wasn't always a priority? In this video, we're taking a look at 20 dangerous and bizarre old car features, like impaling hood ornaments and exploding gas tanks that thankfully no longer exist. Get ready to cringe as we dive into the past. Water balloon bumpers. Back in the mid-1900s, car safety was becoming a big deal, and manufacturers were trying all sorts of new ideas to protect people in crashes. One of the more unusual concepts was the water balloon bumper. Basically, they took regular car bumpers and filled them with water, figuring the water would act as a cushion in a collision, absorbing the impact like a giant, sloshy shock absorber. This was back in the 1950s, and people were both intrigued and a bit skeptical about cars sporting what looked like oversized water balloons on the front and back. Big names like Ford, Chrysler, and General Motors even gave it a shot, hoping this quirky approach would make a real difference in safety. But it turned out that water balloon bumpers had some serious flaws. The materials they used for the bumpers weren't always tough enough, and in real accidents, they'd often burst open, spilling water everywhere and leaving the car no better off than before. While water can absorb some energy, it just couldn't compete with the effectiveness of modern safety features like crumple zones, which are designed to deform in a controlled way to absorb impact forces. In high-speed crashes, those water bumpers just didn't cut it. As researchers learned more about crash safety, it became obvious that water balloon bumpers were more of a publicity stunt than a true safety innovation. By the 1970s, they'd vanished from new car designs as automakers moved on to more sophisticated and reliable safety technologies, leaving the era of watery bumpers behind as an interesting but ultimately unsuccessful experiment. The wrist twist swivel system. Following the watery bumper episode, another bold idea popped up in the 1960s, the wrist twist swivel system. Imagine instead of a steering wheel, you had two rotating dials, kind of like handlebars, to control your car. Ford's Mercury brand actually put this system in their Park Lane convertibles, but people weren't exactly thrilled. It felt more like a bizarre gimmick than a genuine improvement. The idea was that steering with these twisty dials would be more comfortable and intuitive. The steering column could tilt up for easier entry, and once you were seated, it would lower to your lap with armrests for support. Plus, it gave you a clear view of the dashboard, since there was no steering wheel rim blocking your sight. But there were some big problems. Drivers found the wrist twist system confusing. It took real mental effort to get used to the thumb rings and keep your hands loose on the controls. It also lacked the natural feel of a steering wheel, which helps you sense how much you're turning and stay in control. This made driving with the wrist twist system a bit unnerving and potentially dangerous. And there were safety concerns too. Without a padded steering wheel rim, your head and knees were more vulnerable in a crash. Even though the system had some cool features, like a telescoping column, it was ultimately scrapped by the 1970s. Engineers realized that while it was an interesting experiment, the good old steering wheel, the oldest invention in car history, was still the best option for safety and practicality. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the best. Neck seat belts. Now, let's talk about another peculiar idea from the 1960s, neck seat belts. Yep, you heard that right. Car makers actually considered using seat belts that went around your neck instead of your chest and lap. The goal was to prevent whiplash in accidents by keeping your head from snapping back and forth. It was a pretty wild concept. Imagine a seat belt that basically functioned like a scarf, holding your head in place. But neck seat belts never really took off. They stayed mostly hidden from the public eye, like some kind of top-secret experiment. Companies like Ford and General Motors tinkered with prototypes, but most people never even knew about this potential safety revolution. The problem was, neck seat belts came with their own set of risks. While they might have helped with whiplash, they could also cause neck injuries and sudden stops. Imagine your body jerking forward while your head is held firmly in place. That's a recipe for muscle strain or worse. Plus, these prototypes weren't thoroughly tested in real-world crashes, so nobody really knew if they'd actually save lives or potentially do more harm than good. By the 1970s, neck seat belts had faded into obscurity. Maybe they were just too far ahead of their time, or maybe they were simply too dangerous to become widely accepted. Today, we stick with the tried-and-true chest and lap belts, leaving our necks free to move naturally while we travel. Non-collapsible steering columns. Before the late 1960s, a hidden danger lurked in every car: the non-collapsible steering column. This was basically a solid metal rod connecting the steering wheel to the wheels on the road. Most people didn't give it much thought until accidents revealed just how dangerous it could be. These rigid steering columns were a major hazard in collisions. Companies like Ford, Chevrolet, and Chrysler all used them in their cars. The problem was that in a crash, the steering column wouldn't budge. The force of the impact could send it straight into the driver, causing serious injuries or even death. Unlike today's collapsible steering columns, these old ones had no way to absorb the energy of a crash. They were like spears waiting to happen. But then, in 1967, General Motors stepped up and introduced the first collapsible steering column. This clever design would actually crumple and fold upon impact, greatly reducing the risk of the driver being impaled. Other car makers quickly followed suit, and the era of rigid steering columns came to an end. The automotive industry had finally recognized the importance of driver safety in this crucial area, leading to a major shift towards safer designs. Swing-away steering wheels. Back in the mid-1900s, car designers came up with a rather unusual idea to make getting in and out of cars easier: the swing-away steering wheel. Picture this. You walk up to your car, and the steering wheel automatically swings out of the way, giving you plenty of room to slide into the driver's seat. Ford introduced this quirky feature in 1961, offering it as an option on models like the Thunderbird. It was meant to be a fun and convenient solution to the age-old problem of squeezing into tight parking spaces. Drivers were definitely intrigued by this novel approach. Ford wasn't the only one playing with swing-away steering wheels. Other car makers experimented with similar ideas around the same time. However, it turned out that these swinging steering wheels weren't as practical or safe as they seemed. The mechanisms that made them move were sometimes unreliable. The steering wheel might not swing back into place properly, leaving drivers confused or even momentarily stuck. And imagine the potential for disaster if the steering wheel decided to swing away while you were driving. That's a recipe for a serious accident. As the 1970s rolled around, the appeal of swing-away steering wheels began to diminish. Safety concerns ultimately trumped the convenience factor, and car manufacturers started focusing on more dependable and secure features. The era of the swing-away steering wheel came to an end, replaced by a focus on innovations that prioritized safety and reliability over quirky gimmicks. Did you ever own a car with any of these features? Share your experience. Pop-out windshields. While swing-away steering wheels were disappearing, another odd innovation was making its debut: the pop-out windshield. Back in the mid-20th century, some cars, like the 1948 Tucker, came with windshields that were designed to pop out in one piece during a crash. The idea was that if you got into a serious accident, you could simply push out the windshield and escape the wreckage safely. It used a special rubber gasket that allowed the whole windshield to be removed, kind of like popping a champagne cork. At first, drivers were pretty excited about this feature. They imagined surviving a crash and calmly popping out the windshield to escape. Tucker was the main champion of this idea, though other car makers were paying attention. But as with many new inventions, there were some serious downsides. In a really bad crash, the force of the impact could actually launch the windshield, and you with it, out of the car. Instead of shattering, you might become a human projectile, flying through the very glass that was supposed to protect you. That's not exactly a safe outcome. As safety concerns grew, the pop-out windshield's popularity waned. By the 1950s, panoramic curved windshields were becoming all the rage, offering better visibility without the risk of being ejected from the car. Then, the Motor Vehicle Safety Act stepped in and introduced new regulations, effectively ending the era of the pop-out windshield. These once innovative safety features faded into the background, becoming a quirky but ultimately impractical footnote in automotive history. Metal dashboards. In the early days of cars, dashboards were nothing more than simple metal panels. They held the essential gauges and switches, but that was about it. No fancy designs, no soft padding, just cold, hard steel. These metal dashboards were as tough and unforgiving as the cars they were built into. Imagine sitting behind one of these, no cushioning to protect you in a crash, just a solid sheet of metal. Drivers back then didn't seem to mind too much. They were probably too excited about the novelty of driving to worry about the potential dangers. Companies like Ford, Chevrolet, and Dodge all used these metallic dashboards in their vehicles. But as time went on, it became clear that metal dashboards were a serious safety hazard. In a collision, they could cause devastating injuries. Heads, knees, and chests would slam into the unyielding metal with brutal force. Unlike modern dashboards, which are designed to absorb impact, these old ones offered no protection whatsoever. No foam padding, no airbags, just pure steel. By the 1960s, safety concerns were starting to gain traction. Engineers realized that metal dashboards were more of a threat than a feature. Crash tests revealed the horrific consequences of hitting your head on a solid metal surface, and car makers began to take action. They started adding padding, vinyl covers, and other safety features to dashboards. The era of bare metal dashboards came to an end as the automotive industry finally prioritized safety over simple aesthetics. Lap-only seat belts. As car makers moved away from dangerous metal dashboards, another important safety feature was emerging: the lap-only seatbelt. Back in the 1960s, these were the first real seatbelts to be introduced in cars. They were basically a simple strap that went across your waist, designed to keep you from being thrown through the windshield in a sudden stop or accident. People had mixed feelings about these early seatbelts. Some drivers and passengers saw them as potential lifesavers, while others found them annoying and uncomfortable. Companies like Ford and Chevrolet were among the first to offer lap belts in their vehicles. But even though lap belts were a step in the right direction, they had some serious limitations. They didn't offer any protection for your upper body and head. In a crash, you could still hit the dashboard, steering wheel, or windshield and suffer serious injuries. Safety experts and engineers recognized these flaws and started working on better seatbelt designs. By the 1970s, shoulder belts had been introduced. These diagonal straps worked together with the lap belt to secure both your upper and lower body, providing much more comprehensive protection in accidents. The combination of lap and shoulder belts quickly became the new standard for car safety, significantly reducing the risk of injuries and deaths in crashes. As a result, the era of lap-only seatbelts came to an end. They were gradually phased out and replaced by the more effective and comprehensive restraint systems we use today. Unsafe fuel tanks. The 1970s brought a dark chapter in car safety with the Ford Pinto and its dangerously placed fuel tank. Intended to be a small, economical car to compete with foreign models, the Pinto had a hidden flaw. Its fuel tank was located behind the rear axle, making it extremely vulnerable in rear-end collisions. Drivers initially loved the Pinto, unaware of the potential danger lurking beneath its stylish exterior. But tragedy struck when rear-end crashes caused the Pinto's fuel tank to rupture and burst into flames, turning the car into a fiery inferno. The public was horrified as the Pinto's deadly secret was revealed. It turned out that Ford, in an effort to save money, had knowingly prioritized profits over safety. A notorious internal document, known as the Pinto Memo, showed that the company was willing to pay out lawsuits rather than fix the problem. The consequences were devastating. At least 27 people died in Pinto fires, and many more suffered terrible burns. Ford faced criminal charges and massive lawsuits, severely damaging its reputation and turning the Pinto into a symbol of corporate negligence. As safety standards improved and crumple zones became commonplace, the Pinto's reign of terror ended by the late 1970s. Hood ornaments. Back in the early 1900s, car makers loved to decorate their vehicles with hood ornaments. These were basically little sculptures that sat on the front of the car, acting as eye-catching symbols of the brand and adding a touch of elegance to the design. Rolls-Royce, the epitome of luxury, introduced its iconic Spirit of Ecstasy hood ornament in the 1910s. This graceful figurine of a woman leaning forward, her robes flowing in the wind, became synonymous with opulence and prestige. Other companies followed suit, each with its own unique hood ornament. Packard had the Goddess of Speed, Cadillac featured a wreath and crest, and Lincoln sported a four-pointed star. These ornaments were more than just decorations. They were badges of honor, reflecting the brand's identity and the owner's sense of style. Dodge, for example, chose a charging ram as its hood ornament, symbolizing power and resilience, qualities associated with both the Bighorn Sheep and Dodge drivers themselves. But as stylish as hood ornaments were, they also posed a serious safety hazard. Those elegant shapes, wings, animals, goddesses, could become deadly weapons in an accident, potentially impaling pedestrians or drivers. As pedestrian safety gained importance, regulations were introduced in the 1970s, requiring car makers to design collapsible hoods and use blunter hood ornaments to reduce the risk of injury. As a result, hood ornaments gradually disappeared from most cars. Some brands still retain their signature emblems, but they're often retractable or integrated into the hood design to minimize the danger. Which of these dangerous car features shocked you the most? Cigarette lighters and ashtrays. Believe it or not, up until the late 1990s and early 2000s, cigarette lighters and ashtrays were standard features in most cars. Looking back, it's clear that these seemingly harmless accessories posed some serious safety risks. First and foremost, they were a fire hazard. A lit cigarette or a faulty lighter could easily ignite flammable materials inside the car, especially in older models with less fire-resistant interiors. This could lead to devastating consequences for both the driver and passengers. Secondly, smoking while driving was a major distraction. The act of lighting a cigarette, taking a drag, and flicking ashes took the driver's attention away from the road, increasing the risk of accidents. And let's not forget about the visibility issue. Smoke inside the car could significantly impair the driver's vision, making it harder to see other vehicles, pedestrians, and road hazards. Thankfully, attitudes towards smoking have changed dramatically over the past few decades. There's much greater awareness of the health risks associated with smoking, and fewer people smoke in general. This shift in societal norms, along with growing concerns about safety, led to the gradual decline of cigarette lighters and ashtrays in cars. Today, many modern cars have repurposed the cigarette lighter socket as a 12V power outlet for electronic devices like phones and GPS units. It's a positive change that reflects a greater emphasis on both health and safety in automotive design. 8-track and cassette players. Back in the day, 8-track and cassette players were cutting-edge technology, revolutionizing the way we listened to music in our cars. But looking back, we can see that these beloved audio systems had some drawbacks when it came to safety. One major issue was distraction. Changing tapes or 8-tracks while driving required a lot more attention and fiddling than modern audio systems. Drivers had to take their eyes off the road to find the right tape, insert it, and make sure it was playing properly. This increased the risk of accidents, especially in heavy traffic or challenging driving conditions. Another problem was the potential for mechanical issues. Tapes could get jammed or even break, causing a sudden and unexpected distraction for the driver. Imagine trying to untangle a tangled cassette tape while navigating a busy intersection. Not a safe scenario. And unlike today's cars with steering wheel controls for audio systems, these older players often required the driver to look away from the road to operate them. Adjusting the volume, changing tracks, or even turning the system on and off could take your eyes and focus away from driving. The transition to CD players and then to digital audio systems has significantly improved safety in this area. Modern cars often feature voice-controlled infotainment systems, allowing drivers to manage their music and other functions without ever taking their hands off the wheel or their eyes off the road. It's a testament to how technology can enhance both convenience and safety in our vehicles. Bench seats. Bench seats, those wide, continuous seats that could accommodate 3 or more passengers, were a common sight in American cars up until the 1990s. While they offered plenty of room for passengers, they weren't exactly ideal from a safety standpoint. One of the biggest problems with bench seats was the lack of individual restraints. The middle passenger often had only a lap belt, or in some cases, no seat belt at all. This meant that in a collision, the middle passenger was at a much higher risk of injury compared to those sitting on the outer edges with proper shoulder belts. Another issue was the reduced side support. Bench seats didn't offer the same kind of snug, contoured support that bucket seats provide. This meant that in turns, or during a crash, passengers could slide across the seat, increasing the risk of injury. And finally, bench seats made it difficult to implement passenger-side airbags effectively. The wide, flat surface of the bench didn't allow for the precise placement of an airbag that could protect the passenger in a collision. The shift to bucket seats, with individual restraints for each passenger and properly integrated airbag systems, has been a major step forward for car safety. Please comment 1 to let me know you'll be watching this video until the end. Floor-mounted dimmer switches. Back in the day, many cars had their dimmer switches, the switch that controls your headlights' high and low beams, located on the floor near the driver's feet. While this might seem like a minor detail, it actually posed a significant safety risk. In emergency situations, when a driver needs to react quickly, fumbling for a floor-mounted dimmer switch could be incredibly dangerous. Imagine driving on a dark road and suddenly encountering an oncoming vehicle with their high beams on. You need to quickly switch to your low beams to avoid blinding the other driver and potentially causing an accident. But if your dimmer switch is on the floor, you have to take your eyes off the road and your hand off the steering wheel to find it. Those precious seconds could be the difference between a near miss and a serious collision. Modern cars have thankfully moved the dimmer switch to a much more accessible and safer location: the steering column. This means that drivers can easily switch between high and low beams without ever taking their hands off the steering wheel or their eyes off the road. It's a simple but effective design change that has undoubtedly prevented countless accidents over the years. Rear-hinged doors. Rear-hinged doors, also known as suicide doors due to their potential danger, were a popular feature on cars, especially luxury models, from the 1930s through the 1960s. While they offered a wider opening for easier entry and exit, they came with a serious safety risk. The problem with rear-hinged doors was that if they were accidentally opened while the car was moving, the force of the wind could catch the door and fling it wide open. This made it incredibly difficult to close the door and could even pull passengers out of the vehicle, potentially leading to serious injuries or even fatalities. The nickname suicide doors unfortunately became all too appropriate in some cases. Modern safety regulations have largely phased out rear-hinged doors for this very reason. Car manufacturers now prioritize designs that minimize the risk of doors opening unexpectedly while the car is in motion. However, some contemporary car designs have reintroduced rear-hinged doors, but with added safety features to mitigate the risks. These features might include things like electronic locking mechanisms that prevent the doors from being opened while the car is moving, or special hinges that resist the force of the wind. While these modern versions of rear-hinged doors can offer a touch of retro style and added convenience, it's important to remember the potential dangers associated with this type of door design. Vent windows. Vent windows, those small triangular windows often found near the front of car doors, were a common feature in vehicles up until the 1980s. They were especially popular before air conditioning became widespread, as they provided a way to get some fresh air into the cabin without having to roll down the entire window. However, despite their usefulness for ventilation, vent windows had some significant drawbacks from a safety perspective. One major issue was that they weakened the overall structure of the car. The presence of these small windows created weak points in the door frame, compromising the cabin's integrity during rollovers or side impact collisions. In a serious accident, vent windows could shatter easily, potentially increasing the risk of injury to passengers. Another concern was that vent windows were easy targets for thieves. The small size and relatively simple locking mechanisms made them easy to pry open, providing unwanted access to the car's interior. As car design and technology advanced, vent windows became increasingly obsolete. Modern climate control systems, including air conditioning, made it much easier to regulate the temperature and airflow inside the cabin without relying on vent windows. Additionally, improvements in aerodynamics and window sealing technology meant that cars could be designed to be more fuel efficient and quieter without sacrificing ventilation. As a result, vent windows gradually disappeared from car designs, replaced by more robust and secure window systems that offered better protection for passengers and their belongings. Manual window cranks. Those of us who drove in the 70s and 80s might remember rolling up windows the old-fashioned way, with a crank. While those manual window cranks were the norm back then, they weren't always the most reliable or convenient, and, in certain situations, they could even pose a safety risk. Imagine you're in an emergency situation where you need to get out of your car quickly, like if the car is submerged in water or there's a fire. Fumbling with a manual window crank could cost you precious seconds, especially if the mechanism is jammed or broken. Electric windows, which are standard in most cars today, are much faster and more reliable in these kinds of emergencies. You can open or close them with the push of a button, even if the car's electrical system is partially compromised. So, while manual window cranks might seem charmingly retro to some, they're a good example of how something that seems minor can actually have safety implications. The switch to electric windows is just one of the many ways car design has evolved to prioritize speed, convenience, and most importantly, the safety of drivers and passengers.
"20 train travel features that history left behind." Welcome to Who Remembers. Ever wonder what it was really like to travel by train back in the day? Forget cramped seats and delayed flights. We're talking luxurious lounges, onboard chefs, and the rhythmic clickety-clack of the rails. Train travel used to be an experience, an adventure in itself. Join us as we explore 20 fascinating features of train travel that have vanished into the mists of time. From the essential to the extravagant, these forgotten relics reveal a bygone era of elegance, ingenuity, and a whole different way of seeing the world. All aboard. Wood-paneled interiors. Step aboard a vintage train car, and you're instantly transported to a more elegant era. The rich, warm glow of wood paneling greets you, creating an atmosphere of timeless luxury. Imagine yourself settling into a plush seat, surrounded by the polished sheen of mahogany, oak, or walnut. These weren't just train cars, they were traveling parlors, reminiscent of upscale hotels or private clubs. Craftsmanship was paramount. Intricate carvings, detailed moldings, and gleaming finishes showcased the artistry of the time. Every detail, from the ornate light fixtures to the brass hardware, contributed to a sense of refined elegance. The wood paneling wasn't just aesthetically pleasing, it served a practical purpose too. It acted as insulation, muffling the noise of the journey and creating a more comfortable environment for passengers, especially during long trips. This attention to detail and passenger comfort was a hallmark of early train travel. As the mid-20th century approached, tastes changed, and so did train interiors. More modern materials like stainless steel and plastic gained popularity, offering durability and ease of maintenance. However, the allure of wood-paneled interiors never truly faded. Today, many restored vintage trains proudly display their original woodwork, offering a glimpse into the golden age of rail travel. These meticulously preserved cars are more than just museums on wheels. They're living testaments to a time when train travel was not just a means of transportation, but an experience in itself. Railway post offices or PRIOs. For much of the 20th century, trains weren't just transporting passengers, they were vital arteries in the nation's mail delivery system. Imagine dedicated mail cars attached to passenger trains, bustling with activity, even as the trains sped along the tracks. Inside these rolling post offices, postal workers performed a remarkable feat of organization and efficiency. They sorted letters and packages by hand, a flurry of activity amidst the rhythmic clatter of the train. These RPO cars were ingeniously designed, equipped with sorting racks, mail slots, and bins to facilitate the complex task of processing mail on the move. It was a mobile assembly line, ensuring that mail reached its destination quickly and efficiently. The RPO system was a marvel of logistics. Trains could cover vast distances rapidly, making them ideal for transporting mail across the country. RPOs were often featured on the most important train routes, including legendary trains like the 20th Century Limited, further highlighting their importance in the national infrastructure. At its peak, the RPO system employed over 10,000 postal workers, sorting mail along more than 9,000 routes. This vast network kept the country connected, delivering correspondence, packages, and news to communities across the nation. However, as air travel and trucking became more prevalent and cost-effective, the role of trains in mail delivery began to diminish. By 1977, the last RPO car made its final run, marking the end of an era. This ingenious system, using the seemingly simple language of dots and dashes known as Morse code, was the nervous system of the railway, connecting stations and coordinating the complex dance of train traffic across the country. Imagine telegraph lines running alongside the tracks, a constant companion to the steel rails. These lines were the information highway of their time, carrying vital messages between stations, dispatchers, and train crews. Operators skilled in the art of Morse code could quickly relay information about train schedules, departures, arrivals, and any potential delays. This real-time communication was crucial for maintaining efficiency and preventing accidents. In a time when a single misunderstanding could lead to disaster, the telegraph was a lifeline, ensuring that everyone was on the same page. It facilitated communication not only within a single railroad company, but also between different companies, allowing for seamless coordination of train movements across the entire network. The completion of the first transcontinental telegraph line in 1861 was a monumental achievement, further solidifying the telegraphs to the railroad industry. This coast-to-coast connection revolutionized communication, enabling near instantaneous exchange of information across vast distances. While the telegraph might seem like a relic of the past, its impact on the development of the railroad industry cannot be overstated. It was the precursor to modern communication systems, laying the groundwork for the technologies we rely on today. Pullman sleeping cars. The Pullman Company revolutionized train travel by introducing these luxurious sleeping cars, transforming the train into a rolling hotel. Picture yourself stepping into a richly appointed Pullman car, the epitome of elegance and comfort. By day, you relax in plush, spacious seating, enjoying the passing scenery. As night falls, your seat magically transforms into a cozy bed, complete with fresh linens and soft pillows, inviting you to drift off to sleep to the gentle rocking of the train. But the Pullman experience was more than just a comfortable bed. It was about unparalleled service. Dedicated porters were on hand around the clock, attending to every need. They transformed the seating area into sleeping berths each evening, ensuring a restful night's sleep. In the morning, they served breakfast, ensuring passengers started their day refreshed and ready to explore. For those seeking even greater privacy, some Pullman cars offered private rooms within suite facilities, providing a level of luxury unmatched by other forms of travel at the time. The Pullman experience wasn't just about getting from point A to point B, it was about enjoying the journey itself. It was about indulging in the finer things, experiencing the personalized service, and savoring the romance of train travel. Manual signal flags. Before the advent of sophisticated signaling systems, train crews relied on a simple yet effective method of communication: manual signal flags. These flags, each color carrying a specific meaning, were essential for ensuring the safe and efficient movement of trains. Imagine a train crew member, perched on the back of the train or standing trackside, wielding a brightly colored flag. A wave of red meant stop, a flash of green signaled proceed, and a vibrant yellow conveyed caution. These simple visual cues were the lifeblood of railway communication, allowing crews to communicate across distances and in situations where verbal communication was impossible. Train crews had to be constantly vigilant, their eyes scanning the tracks for signals from other trains or railway workers. They needed to be quick and accurate in their flag waving, ensuring that their messages were clearly understood. This manual system required skill, precision, and unwavering attention, as a misinterpretation of a signal could have serious consequences. While seemingly simple, this system of flag-based communication was remarkably effective, keeping trains running safely and smoothly for many years. However, as technology advanced, automated signaling systems replaced the manual flags, offering greater reliability and efficiency. Though the era of manual signal flags has passed, it remains a fascinating chapter in railway history. These colorful flags, once vital tools of communication, now serve as a reminder of the ingenuity and resourcefulness of early railway workers and the evolution of safety and signaling technology on the rails. They represent a more human-centric approach to railway operations, a time when the safety of the trains rested in the hands and watchful eyes of those who waved the flags. Comment one if you enjoyed the content above, and don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications to follow our videos. Thank you. Hat racks above the seats. These seemingly simple overhead compartments, located above the seats, were once a ubiquitous feature in train carriages, reflecting the fashion and travel habits of a bygone era. Imagine a train car filled with passengers, each with their hat neatly placed on the rack above their seat. These racks weren't just for hats, they also accommodated coats, small bags, and other personal items, keeping the aisle clear and belongings within easy reach. In a time when hats were a common fashion accessory, the hat rack was an essential amenity, ensuring that these often expensive items remained safe and undamaged during the journey. It was a small detail that added to the overall comfort and convenience of train travel. As hats fell out of fashion and train designs evolved, the dedicated hat rack became less common. Overhead luggage compartments, designed to accommodate larger bags and suitcases, gradually replaced the specialized hat racks. While more versatile, these larger compartments lack the specific charm and historical significance of the dedicated hat rack. Today, the sight of a neatly placed hat on a rack above a passenger's seat is a rare sight, a nostalgic reminder of a time when train travel was often accompanied by a certain formality and attention to detail. Number 17. Railway timetables in newspapers. Let's take a trip back in time to an era before smartphones and instant online access, when planning a train journey meant consulting a trusted source, the newspaper. Printed railway timetables were a staple feature in newspapers, both local and national, providing essential information for anyone planning to travel by rail. Imagine unfolding the newspaper and turning to the dedicated section filled with rows and columns of train schedules. These timetables were more than just lists of times, they were gateways to adventure, connecting communities and enabling travel across the country. They provided detailed information on departure and arrival times, routes, connecting trains, and other essential details that allowed passengers to plan their journeys with precision. Having these schedules readily available in newspapers ensured that travelers could stay informed about changes, plan connections, and arrive at their destinations on time. The prominence of railway timetables in newspapers underscored the importance of train travel in daily life. Trains were the primary mode of long-distance transportation for many, and the readily available schedules reflected their integral role in connecting communities and facilitating commerce. As technology advanced and the internet became ubiquitous, the need for printed timetables diminished. Real-time digital updates, accessible through websites and mobile apps, offered greater convenience and flexibility. Number 4. Art Deco trains. All aboard for a journey back to the stylish era of Art Deco trains. These streamlined beauties weren't just transportation, they were rolling works of art, embodying the glamour and optimism of the 1930s and 40s. Imagine sleek lines, bold colors, and geometric patterns, all reflecting the distinctive Art Deco style that permeated design during that period. Even stationary, these locomotives looked like they were ready to race into the future. Their streamlined forms hinted at speed and innovation, capturing the spirit of a rapidly changing world. But the elegance didn't stop at the exterior. Step inside, and you'd find yourself in a world of polished wood, gleaming chrome, and sparkling glass. These luxurious interiors, reminiscent of high-end hotels or sophisticated lounges, offered passengers a glamorous travel experience. Think fine dining, comfortable sleeping compartments, an observation lounge where you could soak in the passing scenery and style. Iconic trains like the 20th Century Limited and the Super Chief catered to the elite, offering unparalleled service and a taste of the high life. These trains weren't just about getting from point A to point B, they were about making a statement. They represented the epitome of luxury travel, a symbol of success and sophistication. Interestingly, the 20th Century Limited's famous red carpet boarding tradition is where we get the modern phrase rolling out the red carpet. This small detail speaks volumes about the train's cultural impact and its association with VIP treatment. Number 10. Railroad signal towers. Imagine a tall, imposing structure standing watch over the railway, a silent guardian of the tracks. This was the railroad signal tower, a vital component of early train traffic management. These towers, often constructed of wood or brick, housed the operators who held the responsibility of keeping the trains moving safely and efficiently. Before the age of computers and automated systems, these operators relied on hand-cranked levers, intricate mechanisms that controlled the signals and track switches. It was a demanding job, requiring constant vigilance and a deep understanding of the railway network. The signal towers were strategically placed at key points along the line, such as junctions and busy stations, where the potential for collisions or delays was highest. From their perch high above the tracks, the operators had a clear view of the rail traffic, meticulously directing the movement of trains through their section of the line. They were the traffic controllers of their time, ensuring the smooth flow of trains and preventing accidents. The work was demanding, requiring long hours and unwavering focus. These individuals were the unsung heroes of the railway, their dedication and skill essential to the safe and efficient operation of the entire system. As technology advanced, automated systems began to replace the manual operations of the signal towers. While these advancements improved efficiency and safety, they also marked the end of an era for the signal operators and their iconic towers. Number 1. Steam engines. Let's journey back to the golden age of steam, a time when mighty locomotives ruled the rails. These iron horses, with their billowing smoke and rhythmic chugging, weren't just machines, they were symbols of progress and adventure. Imagine the scene: a massive steam engine, like the legendary Union Pacific Big Boy, thundering across the American landscape, hauling a seemingly endless string of cars. These behemoths, some of the largest and most powerful locomotives ever built, were the lifeblood of early rail travel, connecting communities and fueling economic growth. The magic behind these powerful engines was simple yet ingenious: burning coal-heated water, creating steam that drove pistons and turned the wheels. This transformative power, harnessed from basic elements, propelled America forward. But steam engines weren't without their quirks. They required constant maintenance, demanding the skill and dedication of engineers and firemen. The rhythmic hiss of steam, the clang of metal, and the roar of the engine were all part of their unique character. By the mid-20th century, the reign of steam began to wane, giving way to the more efficient diesel engine. However, the romance of steam never truly faded. The nostalgic appeal of these magnificent machines continues to captivate. Today, rail enthusiasts and history buffs seek out opportunities to experience the sights and sounds of a bygone era. Places like the Strasburg Railroad in Pennsylvania keep the spirit of steam alive, offering a glimpse into a time when these powerful engines ruled the rails. Number 3. Porters. These dedicated professionals were essential to the passenger experience, especially in the heyday of luxury train travel. Dressed in their crisp uniforms, they were the epitome of service and hospitality. Imagine boarding a train, your luggage whisked away by a porter, your every need anticipated. These individuals were far more than just baggage handlers. They were attendants, concierges, and even guides. They made up beds in the sleeper cars, ensured passenger comfort, and attended to every detail, large or small. The work was demanding, requiring long hours and unwavering dedication. Yet, the porters consistently delivered exceptional service, becoming synonymous with the luxury train experience. For many African Americans, particularly during the era of segregation, becoming a Pullman porter was a vital source of employment and a path to a better life. The Pullman Company was one of the largest employers of African Americans, and the porter position offered stability and respect in a society rife with discrimination. These men were not only providing exceptional service to passengers, they were also breaking barriers and paving the way for future generations. Their dedication and professionalism didn't go unnoticed. Passengers often remembered their porters fondly, recalling their helpfulness and extensive knowledge of the routes. They weren't just employees, they were part of the journey, adding a personal touch to the travel experience. The porters' impact extended beyond individual service. In 1925, they formed the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters, a landmark achievement. This union became the first African American labor union to be recognized by a major U.S. corporation, marking a significant victory in the fight for labor rights and equality. Number 5. Ticket punches. This seemingly simple tool played a crucial role in the days of paper tickets, serving as a symbol of authority and a tangible record of a passenger's journey. Imagine a conductor, crisply uniformed, making their way through the train car. "Tickets, please," they'd call out, collecting the small cardboard rectangles that represented passage and belonging. With a practiced hand, they'd use their unique punch to mark the ticket, a distinctive snip that signified a paid fare and a validated journey. Each punch was different, often featuring a unique shape or pattern. This wasn't just about marking a ticket, it was about creating a record, a miniature piece of history. Passengers often kept their punched tickets as souvenirs, tangible reminders of their travels. These small pieces of cardboard became mementos, each punch hole telling a story of a journey undertaken. The practice of ticket punching not only ensured accountability and prevented fraud, but it also added a personal touch to the train travel experience. It was a ritual, a moment of interaction between passenger and conductor that reinforced the sense of community and shared experience on board. Interestingly, some conductors even collected different punch designs, turning this practical tool into an unofficial art form among railroad workers. This fascinating detail reveals the human element behind the job, showcasing the pride and creativity of those who kept the trains running. While digital ticketing has largely replaced the need for physical tickets and punches, the image of the conductor with their punch remains a powerful symbol of train travel's past. Do you have any personal memories or stories related to these vanished train features? I'd love to hear them below. Number 7. Observation cars. Imagine yourself gliding through the majestic Rocky Mountains or along the breathtaking Pacific coast, all while comfortably seated inside a train. This was the promise of the observation car, a unique feature of train travel designed to maximize the scenic experience. These specialized cars, often positioned at the rear of the train, offered passengers unparalleled panoramic views. Large windows framed the passing landscapes, and some even boasted glass domes on the roof, providing an even more immersive perspective. Introduced in the early 1900s, observation cars quickly became a popular addition to scenic train routes. They were designed for sightseeing and relaxation, offering comfortable seating in open lounge areas where travelers could socialize and enjoy the ever-changing scenery without leaving their seats. Picture yourself settling into a plush armchair, a drink from the onboard bar service in hand, as the world unfolds outside your window. It was a unique blend of comfort and adventure, a chance to connect with the landscape in a truly immersive way. The observation car wasn't just about the view, it was also a social hub. Passengers could mingle, share stories, and forge connections against the backdrop of stunning scenery. This social aspect added another layer to the travel experience, creating a sense of camaraderie among fellow travelers. While observation cars are less common today due to higher operating costs, their legacy lives on. Amtrak, for example, still offers its Superliner Sightseer lounge car, allowing passengers to experience the magic of panoramic train travel. These modern observation cars offer a glimpse into the golden age of rail, when the journey itself was as important as the destination. Number 9. Smoking cars. Step back in time to the mid-20th century, and you'll find a very different picture of train travel. Smoking, far from being taboo, was not only permitted but was a common part of the experience. Many trains featured designated smoking cars, social hubs where passengers could light up a cigarette, cigar, or pipe and enjoy the camaraderie of fellow smokers. These cars, often located towards the rear of the train, served as dedicated spaces for those who wished to indulge, ensuring that non-smoking passengers could enjoy a smoke-free environment. Smoking cars often had a more casual atmosphere compared to other parts of the train. Think comfortable seating, ashtrays readily available, and ventilation systems designed to manage the haze of smoke. They were social spaces, places where conversations sparked, stories were shared, and connections were made amidst the swirling clouds. As the decades progressed, however, societal attitudes towards smoking began to evolve. The health risks associated with smoking became increasingly apparent, and public opinion shifted. What was once considered a normal part of life gradually became viewed as a health hazard. This shift in perception had a direct impact on train travel. Smoking cars, once a staple of the train experience, began to disappear. By the 1990s, most American trains had banned smoking altogether, reflecting the changing times and prioritizing the health and comfort of all passengers. Number 11. Dining cars with full-service meals. Imagine yourself settling into a plush booth, a crisp white linen tablecloth before you, gleaming silverware reflecting the soft light. This wasn't just a meal, it was an experience. On-board chefs, masters of their craft, prepared multi-course meals that rivaled those of the finest restaurants. Fresh ingredients were transformed into culinary masterpieces, from succulent steaks and fresh seafood to freshly baked bread and decadent desserts. Wine flowed freely, and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the air. The rhythmic clatter of the train on the tracks provided a unique backdrop to this elegant dining experience. As the landscape unfolded outside the window, passengers savored each bite, enjoying not just the food but also the unique ambience of the dining car. It was a social hub, a place where conversations flowed as easily as the wine, and strangers became friends over shared meals. More than just sustenance, dining in a train car was about creating memories. It was about the shared experience, the elegant atmosphere, and the simple pleasure of enjoying a delicious meal while watching the world go by. It was a ritual, a tradition that elevated train travel from a mere mode of transportation to a truly memorable experience. While the heyday of the full-service dining car may be in the past, the romance of that era continues to capture our imaginations. It represents a time when train travel was not just about reaching a destination, but about savoring the journey itself, one delicious bite at a time. Number 13. Baggage cars. These dedicated cars, often positioned near the front of the train, played a vital role in facilitating long-distance journeys, especially in the days before lightweight luggage and strict baggage allowances. Imagine a time when traveling light wasn't a necessity. Passengers could bring along a substantial amount of luggage, from suitcases and trunks to larger items like bicycle, musical instruments, and even, on occasion, live animals. The baggage car was the solution, providing a secure and dedicated space for all these belongings. Unlike today's overhead bins and limited under-seat storage, the baggage car offered ample space, allowing passengers to travel with everything they needed, and perhaps a few extras as well. A team of skilled baggage handlers ensured the smooth and efficient handling of all these items. They were responsible for loading and unloading the luggage at each stop, ensuring that everything arrived safely at its intended destination. This system not only kept passenger areas clutter-free and comfortable, but also allowed for a much more relaxed and enjoyable travel experience. Passengers could simply hand over their luggage at the start of their journey, knowing it would be waiting for them at the other end. This convenience was a significant advantage, especially for families or those traveling with bulky items. While modern train travel often involves stricter baggage restrictions, the legacy of the baggage car reminds us of a time when journeys were less constrained by luggage limitations. Number 14. Ladies' lounges. These dedicated compartments offered women a haven of privacy and comfort during long journeys, reflecting the social norms and expectations of the era. Imagine a beautifully furnished space, separate from the bustling general passenger cars. Plush cushioned seating invited relaxation, while vanity mirrors provided a place to freshen up. Some lounges even included a dedicated restroom, adding to the convenience and privacy. These lounges were more than just a place to rest, they were a sanctuary. They offered women a retreat from the often crowded and less private general passenger cars, allowing them to relax, socialize with other women, or simply enjoy a moment of quiet solitude. In an era when societal norms placed a high value on privacy and modesty for women, the ladies' lounge was a welcome amenity. It made long-distance train travel more comfortable and refined, catering to the specific needs and expectations of female passengers. These spaces were designed with elegance and comfort in mind, often featuring tasteful decor and thoughtful amenities. They provided a sense of exclusivity and respite, allowing women to travel with greater ease and dignity. While the dedicated ladies' lounge may no longer be a common feature of modern train travel, its existence speaks volumes about the evolving social landscape and the efforts made to cater to the specific needs of different passenger groups. Number 16. Railway dining clubs. Let's delve into a little-known luxury of the golden age of train travel, the Railway Dining Club. These exclusive memberships catered to the discerning traveler who appreciated the finer things in life, especially when it came to dining on the rails. Imagine a time when train travel wasn't just about getting from A to B, but about enjoying the journey itself, particularly the culinary experience. Railway dining clubs offered frequent train diners a range of perks and privileges, elevating their onboard dining experience to a new level. Members enjoyed priority reservations in the dining car, ensuring they always had a coveted table with a view. Special menu options, often featuring gourmet dishes not available to other passengers, tantalized their taste buds. Personalized service from the dining car staff added a touch of exclusivity, making members feel like valued guests. Beyond the dining car, membership often included discounts on meals, access to exclusive railway-sponsored events, and other perks that enhanced the overall travel experience. These clubs fostered a sense of community among frequent travelers, creating a network of like-minded individuals who appreciated the finer things in life. They also reinforced the image of train travel as a luxurious and sophisticated mode of transportation. As air travel gained popularity and train travel declined, these exclusive dining clubs gradually faded into history. Number 18. Bulletin boards in train stations. These large, manually operated boards were the central nervous system of the station, providing passengers with real-time information about arrivals, departures, delays, platform changes, and any other crucial updates. Imagine a station employee meticulously updating the board, flipping the split flap letters and numbers to reflect the latest information. This manual process, while not instantaneous, was essential for keeping passengers informed and ensuring the smooth flow of travelers through the station. The bulletin board was more than just a source of information. It was a focal point, a gathering place where anxious eyes scanned for updates, and sighs of relief or groans of frustration rippled through the crowd. It was a tangible representation of the dynamic nature of train travel, where schedules could shift and plans could change in an instant. As technology advanced, electronic displays and digital updates replaced the manual bulletin boards, offering faster, more accurate, and more dynamic information delivery. Number 20. Communal sleeping berths. Let's take a glimpse into the past of sleeper train travel, a time when privacy was a luxury and shared sleeping spaces were the norm. In the early days of sleeper trains, communal berths were the standard arrangement. Imagine a train car filled with rows of bunks or fold-down beds, a shared sleeping space where passengers settled in for the night. While curtains or partitions sometimes offered a modicum of privacy, the overall atmosphere was one of communal living. These shared compartments weren't about luxury, they were about practicality and affordability. They provided a way for travelers to cover long distances overnight without the expense of a private room. While lacking in privacy, these communal sleeping arrangements fostered a sense of camaraderie among passengers. Shared experiences, late-night conversations, and the gentle rocking of the train created a unique bond among those sharing the same sleeping car. As train travel evolved and passenger expectations shifted, private cabins became more prevalent. The demand for greater comfort and privacy led to the gradual disappearance of the communal berth system. Today, most sleeper trains offer enclosed rooms or compartments, providing a more private and comfortable sleeping experience.
Did we leave out any of your favorite or least favorite old car features? Let us know in the comments below. If this trip down memory lane got you thinking, check out our other videos and don't forget to subscribe. Share this with your friends. They'll be shocked by what they discover. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.